YouTube. This is Airborne Saint. The date is September 26, 2020. We've been trying to get a debate going on people that don't see the Mandela effect changes. And when I say we, mostly myself and Wakeuporelse, also known as John in real life. We've had schedule differences and stuff like that, so we haven't been able to really put together a debate. But we did have somebody counterpoint one of his videos, a channel called Logicked. And I watched the video. The guy is dressed all in black with a background of purple. If you guys don't know what putting purple behind you means, we can talk about that later. That's immaterial to the argument. The guy's not exposing his face, so that's interesting. I don't know why. That may be his character. I don't really follow his channel so much, but I'm going to subscribe so I can follow him and see what that's all about. There's many reasons not to show your face, as you guys are well aware. His argument is mostly ad hoc argument, which is basically, when I say ad hoc, I mean name calling, those type of things, which is really a weak position to take. His link to his video will be in the description of this video. I'm not going to repost his video because I don't know where the permissions lie with his channel and who actually funds that channel, and I don't know anything about him whatsoever. Now, he has about 140 something thousand subscribers, which means he's probably funded, he's probably supported, or maybe just successful with his message, who knows. But John's counterpoint is here, and the link to Logicked's video is in the description. I suggest you watch Logicked's video first and then watch this counterpoint, so it makes more sense to you. And it's fun to debate it. I bring this video to you not with anger whatsoever, but with curiosity, because I believe, and many believe, that prophecy is unfolding. If you can prove it wrong, great. I haven't seen anybody do it yet, but go ahead and try. Now enjoy this video. Check out both arguments. Form a good opinion. This is my face, Logicked. Where's your face?
Hey, this is Wakeuporelse, and this is a response to a video that someone sent me by Logicked, and I'm just going to call him LG because Logicked is really hard to say. And in his video, he's trying to dismantle and debunk the Mandela effect using one of my videos that I created. And I appreciate LG. I love his love for the truth. He's got some good insights into certain things at a certain level, and he's definitely gifted. But you know, you can't really know God with your head. You can only know him with your heart. And so LG is really kind of out there with those that God talks about in Romans 1:22, professing themselves to be wise, they became fools. Someone said that a man with an experience is not at the mercy of a man with an argument. And don't get me wrong, I've got an open mind. I'm listening, okay? I'm listening to what you're saying, LG, but your arguments are unpersuasive. See, you can't just override a man's vivid memory with a decree because you watched a TED Talk on implanted thoughts and confabulation. Okay, you have to admit that when you are saying I'm misremembering, it's only a suggestion on your part. It's a presumption. Okay, you don't know if I'm misremembering or not. I would just like to state that for the record. All right, because vivid memories are a mix of a lot of aspects of the human condition. It involves our volition, our emotional realm, the spirit man, his mind, his very being, his conscience. This is a very complex and mysterious realm of the human condition, and it can't be easily understood and picked apart by mere mortals. The Word of God comes to us, and it says the Word of God is sharper than any two-edged sword, cutting asunder even to soul and spirit, discerning the intent of the heart. Yet the unconvinced seem to be willing to wade into it with an air of intellectual superiority that seems very inappropriate to me. Okay, because if you're going to persuade me and many like me in the Mandela effect community that we're just kind of befuddled, right? And we're just making a big deal out of nothing. You're going to have to produce some sort of evidence to show how we are experiencing what we're experiencing. Okay? If it's a PSYOP, how are they doing it? How? How did they go into all the millions of homes and put the VHS with the wrong wording on the back of it? Okay? Things like that don't add up to us. Because what we know is what we're experiencing is not misremembering. Okay? It's something quite different, I assure you. It is a mystery. In fact, the Mandela effect is actually an end-time sign and wonder. That's really what it is. It's clearly been foretold in the ancient writings. So this is going to be a two-part response video. The first here is going to be an attempt to hammer out the basics as you have in your video, and the follow-up video will then respond point to point to each of your arguments with clear, concise responses citing specific evidence for each one. My goal is not to prove anybody wrong, but to open a dialogue, okay? And with that, I'm going to allow you to begin from your video. Here we go.
Anyway, today I'm diving into something that I've occasionally got requests for years. I bet you can't guess what it is, unless you read the title. Spoiler warning, don't read the title. Yeah, it's the Mandela effect. If you're not familiar with this, basically it's a conspiracy theory, or... No, that's not the right word, because it's not really about a conspiracy. Anyway, today I'm diving...
Okay, so what I'd like to do and start my analysis is by pointing out that LG almost used that conspiracy theory term to describe the Mandela effect. He pulled back there, but his willingness to invoke this mind control word is very telling to me. This shows me to some degree that he is not as learned as you might think, because all he's doing when he invokes that word, conspiracy theorist, is he's regurgitating talking points that were created in the late 1960s, and they were designed to crush and silence truth seekers. People that were questioning in that day the official story regarding the JFK assassination. So if you're a listener of LG, it's probably because you love the truth. And so here's the truth about the word conspiracy theory. It was created and released by the CIA in 1967 in an attempt to quell and silence people that were questioning JFK's assassination. And so the CIA issued a bunch of directives that were given to news outlets and journalists and in different publications to begin to psyop them and manage what was actually, in fact, a conspiracy. We now know this to be true because the documents were unclassified after 50 years by Trump, and this is now in the records. What we know is from the unclassified documents that there was, in fact, a conspiracy. The Surgeon General's report on the assassination stated the first bullet entered the president's throat below the Adam's apple, clearly showing that two persons were involved with the first shot being fired. So, when LG uses that term to shame people regarding the Mandela effect, all he is a mind control victim. Because the truth is that there really was a conspiracy. So I just think LG should apologize to all the conspiracy theorists in the whole world, including me, especially since he used the word dumb and smug to describe my video. But that's all right. I'm a Christian. I'll forgive you, LG. No harm, no foul. All right? So, anyway, I'll do it for you. There you go. So really, my primary response to LG's attempt to dismantle the Mandela effect is that we are not solely relying on our memories when we come to this conclusion that something unexplainable is happening. Now, I can't speak for everybody in the Mandela effect community, but I don't think I'm a lot different than a lot of fundamental Bible-believing Christians who claim that the Mandela effect is a real phenomenon and that we're not only relying on vivid memories, but also biblical prophecy, residual evidence, statistical probabilities, the existence of what we call flip-flops, shared experiences. In other words, you misremember a lot of things same way we do, and then all the other people that are in our community forget them or don't remember them or do remember them, whatever, the same way we do. And then notable figures who have come forward. So let's take these one at a time. First of all, biblical prophecy, which I will not get into on this video, told us thousands of years in advance that this event would take place. There are 4 or 5 very distinct passages in the Bible which address this event. There are also extra biblical writings that also address this event by men that lived thousands of years ago. Okay, I recorded here on the screen, you can see a 48-minute analysis of these passages for anyone that would like to respond to this piece of evidence. And to date, no one has specifically refuted any of my biblical positions. So if you're going to convince me that I'm mistaken, one of the things I would need you to do is explain why I have been able to find this event that I'm experiencing in the prophecies of ancient writings. Good luck with that. Here's one, for example. Now, this is not in the Bible, but there is a book of Enoch, but it was not included in the canon of Scripture. However, Enoch's writings are quoted in the book of Jude, and he is mentioned in the Old Testament as well. So his writings are at least prophetic, and they have received the credibility of being quoted by one of the New Testament writers. And so Enoch's writings were very clear that what he was given by God was not for the people of his time, but only for those who would live in the last days. And we believe that we are in those last days, and this writing is for now. So Enoch said this, "And in the days of the sinners, the years shall be shortened, and their seed shall be tardy on their lands and fields." Now listen to this. "And all things on the earth shall alter." Boom! "And shall not appear in their time." Bam! Thank you. Biblical prophecy supports my position. You can just set aside the memory argument, okay? Because I have Enoch who walked with God and was not. That's how he's described. This guy was so tight with God that God couldn't take it anymore, and he snatched him up. Come on up here, bro. So I'm going to go with Enoch on whether or not this is true or not. Now, just a little booster rocket for you. The next thing he says is, "And the rain shall be kept back, and the heavens shall withhold it. And in those times, the fruits of the earth shall be backward." Before I ever saw this prophecy, I heard about bananas growing upside down. And when I saw this, I was like, no way. I do not remember bananas growing upside down. This is a widely known Mandela effect. And wouldn't you know it, that old Enoch called it, I don't know how many years ago, 6,000 years ago. "And in those times, the fruits of the earth shall be backward." Come on, man, that is money right there. All right, so the next piece of evidence, which has nothing to do with my fallible memory, by the way, is the existence of residual evidence. Now, just to clarify this, residual evidence are artifacts within the data sphere that are consistent with our vivid memories and that seem to confirm that our experience is in fact unexplainable. Let me explain what I mean. These are like breadcrumbs or anomalies, and really they're typically brushed aside by the unconvinced as not out of the ordinary. Just the normal amount of mistakes and misquotes, misspelled things that you might normally see in the course of life. Really? We find this position to be preposterous and ridiculous when you consider the quantity, the vast, comprehensive volume of these anomalies. There's not 8 or 10 of them, even per item. There are hundreds of thousands of them in multiple categories and more all the time. But they're not isolated in them of themselves. They directly correspond to the vivid memories that we're claiming we have. Oh, nothing to see there. No correlation there. The unconvinced seem incapable of making that correlation. That you have a group of people claiming this phenomenon and they're implacable about it, okay? This is not like, oh, I had this memory that something used to be over the water cooler. This is our whole life being turned upside down, right? And then you go out and you're able to find proof that what you're claiming you're experiencing did exist somehow, somewhere. It's a mystery. It's unexplainable, but it's there. The absence of residual evidence would strengthen your position dramatically in my mind. Okay, in other words, if all I had was the vivid memories, I might agree with you. But to me, residual evidence is the smoking gun. It proves that whoever or whatever is changing things, has not done a very good job. In other words, am I experiencing a implanted thought? Am I experiencing a shift to another universe? Is my consciousness doing backflips? I have no idea what I'm experiencing, but I could tell you what I'm not experiencing. I'm not misremembering. Okay? So residual evidence. This is the typical explanation that we get. This was one of the comments on my channel. This is a common thing based on human mental behavior, and the reality is that we can point out a great many of these and show that they have indeed been misremembered. For example, with Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, most people remember the famous line, "Luke, I am your father." The line is actually, "No, I am your father." And we can prove this by rewatching the movie. It's a common effect that has been enhanced by the internet and word of mouth when discussing such things as the memory is not an instant replay situation. Okay, so I have a vivid memory of Luke, I'm your father. And if that's all there was, I wouldn't be as convinced myself. But then I go out to the shoe store. This is not on the internet. This is like I'm standing in front of this thing and there's a Star Wars shoe, and on the side of the box, they got it wrong. It should say, "No, I am your father." But whoever created the packaging put "Luke, I'm your father." Okay, so he had to be wrong. Then the people he's works for him got it wrong, and then the editors got it wrong, and the quality control people got it wrong, and then nobody ever caught it before it went shipped out to the store. Nobody in the store got it wrong. Right? It's like, come on. And this has nothing to do with my fallible memory. Okay, then this toy, I can't play it for you. I don't have the recording of this, but this toy says, "Luke, I'm your father." So again, no quality control, no recalling this because it's a wreck. No. Then you got the guy that said it in an interview in the morning show, and he gets it wrong. The guy that said it got it wrong, according to this video. And after a while, you've got hundreds of these samples per thing. Okay, this is 4, right? 4 examples for one thing. There's probably 100, and there's thousands of different things, and each one has multiple. And what we're being asked to believe is that having 50,000 examples of residual is just business as usual. Okay, and we're like, no. All right, so let me go back to LG here and have him give us one of his points, and I'm going to address that.
Then they're not wrong because they didn't pay attention, or they forgot, or they were too young when they first saw it and misinterpreted it, or they didn't care enough about the Fruit Loops box to study it in detail and they just poured out their damn cereal and got on with their day until they joined the Mandela effect forums 20 years later. And in the meantime, they just kind of assumed it was fruit like fruit, not fruit like fruit, or some other obvious commonplace
Okay, so LG is proposing or positing that this could be chalked up to just run-of-the-mill forgetfulness. We're just mistaken, right? And our position is like, that's like saying being one of the first guys that stormed the beach at Normandy is the same as being in a Nerf gun battle at your 6-year-old daughter's birthday party. I'm just going to say, no, it's not run-of-the-mill forgetfulness. We're not like naive little 12-year-olds going off half-cocked suggesting something fantastic is happening when it isn't. We as adults have all experienced isolated, insignificant, quirky misremembering things. You know, like, it's not money is the root of all evil, it's the love of money is the root of all evil. We get it, okay? And we've also understand the difference between I can't remember, I think I remember, and I definitely remember. You know, like, you know, what color is the color ketchup? What color is mustard? Okay, are you sure? Are you sure you don't have the color of mustard confused with the color of green beans or you know, oranges or something? I mean, how does that make you feel? It's like totally offensive. It's like, do I not have any kind of capability to remember things? And so there's this avalanche of thousands of things, not a few things, okay? Thousands. Thousands of things don't change in normal existence. This is our life being turned upside down and inside out. And so if you're suggesting that there's no difference between those two experiences, then, you know, I don't even know what to say. I think you're just willfully ignorant. You're just stubborn. That's what I think. Period. Okay? So, third source of evidence, statistical probabilities. Nothing to do with my memory. You've got probability as a branch of mathematics concerning numerical descriptions of how likely an event is to occur or how likely it is that a proposition is true, right? The probability of an event is a number between 0 and 1, where roughly speaking 0 indicates impossible, 1 indicates certainty, okay? So as an example, one person claiming that they have a vivid memory of one thing versus hundreds of thousands or millions of people claiming they are misremembering many things, in my humble opinion, changes the probabilities. Okay? In other words, if you were going to flip a coin flip has a higher probability of coming up a certain way than, let's say, the number 4 on a 6-sided dice. So less options, higher probability of a result. More options, less of a probability than a specific result. That is a clear example of how higher numbers of options changes the chances of the outcome. I just want to establish an agreement that what I'm saying is accurate so far. Okay? So in the same way, if you have one person claiming they are experiencing the Mandela effect and claiming that it's exotic, right? There's a high probability that your explanation, or a rational one, a natural explanation, is correct. Okay, that person is probably mistaken. However, as you begin to add more numbers of people, more examples for things that are being misremembered, more credible people, doctors have videos on YouTube going through how the anatomy has changed. Scientists, mathematicians, engineers. As you begin to see more and more complex videos like these that string together concepts and principles, and you see residual evidence examples to support the vivid memories, and you add biblical prophecy that clearly describes the event, and then you add flip-flops that is so in your face, okay, that it defies description. And then you begin to have higher probability that a more exotic explanation is becoming more and more plausible. I mean, how do you explain all these different elements converging independently? What is your explanation for these things that I'm presenting? What if everybody on the earth was claiming the Mandela effect and you weren't? Don't you think you might begin to possibly question your own position? I know that large groups of people can all be deceived, okay? But don't tell me that a higher number of people claiming this doesn't matter. Math disagrees with you, okay? A lot of times, to me, the unconvinced are like an incompetent detective, okay? So you got all these different forms of evidence, and it's like a detective shows up at the suspect's house, right? This guy's suspected of murder. And you find the victim's torn shirt with the guy's We'll call him Harry. Harry's blood is on the victim's shirt. His fingerprints are on the knife. He's got pictures of the girl on his wall and all this other, and you go, it's not him. You know, nothing to see here. And you leave, right? You know what would happen to you? You'd be fired. Your sergeant would call you into the carpet and he'd fire you because you're incompetent. All right? You're looking at all this different stuff and you're just waving it off like it's no big deal. Okay? So there have been 3 different incidences that I know of where these things changed and they changed back again. Okay? It's like some little teenager flipping a switch and some master science, the evil scientist, however they're doing this, flipping the reality on and off. So Flintstones, I woke up one day and the Flintstones lost their tea. Everybody's talking about it. People made videos about it. It was a mind-blowing Mandela effect. I went and saw the lunchbox in Walmart. It's not on the internet only. It's in the real world. It had no tea. I'm like, okay, this is completely freaked out. And this is recent history. Okay, so this is not like a misremembered thing. It just happened. Well, this was a while back, but still, it was epic. Because then the thing flipped back. So now it's Flintstones again. And so I was able to capture this thing. Of course, you can accuse me of photoshopping it. Go ahead. I don't care. I got Reddit strings on here where people are talking about the flip-flop. I got all this evidence. People say, oh, these people in the Mandela effect community, they don't have any credible evidence. And then I make all these videos and they never even refer to the stuff I'm showing. Because they have their own paradigm. They don't, it's cognitive dissonance. Houston, we have a problem. That one flipped. I'm not going to take a lot of time because I've treated these in other videos. But I found websites that during that moment when it had flipped the first time said the misquote was Houston, we have a problem. So in that moment, that was correct. That was a misquote. Well, now it's correct again. So it flipped back. And I captured proof while it flipped the first time. You see what I'm saying? Now it flipped back. Here's another one. And then, of course, Tidy Cats was the third one. We all were aware of this. Tidy Cats is now Tidy Cat. There's no S. I'm like, get out of here. So I go to Google. Sure enough, Google everywhere in the data sphere, in the stores. I saw people made videos of I remember it's fairly recent. They go into the store and it's Tidy Cat. There's no S on it. Well, then all of a sudden we wake up one morning and it's all, the S is back again. I mean, you guys have got to be kidding me. Trying to convince us that this is a memory glitch? You got to be kidding me. This is epic proof that what we're saying is true. And you're just going to brush it aside because you don't want it to be true, or you just intellectually, can't deal with it, or whatever your reasonings are, okay? So you can go into newspapers.com. And then you can search back 50 years. They digitized all these ads. Okay, and so you find all of the ads that are the way that we remember it when it flipped. Of course, now it's flipped back. And you can say whatever you want about, oh, well, it's just mistakes. That's total rubbish, because I used to write display ads. You go over every word with a magnifying glass, There might be a few scattered throughout the data sphere, but not 50 for every one of these things. Zero chance of that. Zero. It's 10 to the 50th power. That's the scientific definition of impossible. Tidy Cat. You see it right on the bag in the ad. I don't know what we're experiencing, but it ain't misremembering. Okay? Then shared experiences is also a compelling proof. Okay? In other words, you, the unconvinced, are actually misremembering just like we are. Okay? So for instance, I'll give you 2 examples, and there's hundreds. And I've done this myself, so I know it's true. I'll go into any room, anywhere, and I'll ask people, hey, what's that thing called? It's blank notes. It's like summaries of books, right? And they'll say, Cliff Notes, right? Wrong. It's called Cliff's Notes. Cliff Notes. No, it's Cliff's Notes. And I'm like, get out of here. It's not Cliff's Notes. It's always been Cliff Notes. And so people say, oh, well, it started out Cliff Notes, and then they changed it. No, they didn't. You go to Wikipedia, wherever you look up the trademarks, and it says Cliff Notes was started in Nebraska in 1958. And there it is. The term Cliff's Notes goes all the way back to 1958. So it didn't change halfway down the road. It was always Cliff's Notes. And you don't even have enough respect to believe your own conscience, your own memory, okay? You're so committed to your worldview that you're going to commit intellectual harry-carry, okay? So another one, Smokey the Bear. No, he's never been Smokey the Bear. It's always been Smokey Bear. You'd have to be smoking something to think that it was always Smokey Bear, right? And it goes back to the beginning. It didn't change. Here it is, August 1944, the creation of Smokey Bear. And you can come up with whatever explanation you want, okay? But my conscience and my memory say different. And so does the residual evidence and all this stuff. So there's some residual evidence. It was Smokey the Bear, okay? And then, of course, the vivid memory testimony is now about to be rolled out, and you're going to like this one, okay? Are you ready? Because all of this talk about how our memory is fallible, it's unreliable. You know what that's like? It's like Monica Lewinsky, you know, being on the stand, and you got to come and try to disparage her reputation to save the president's reputation. So you're going to make her look like a hussy. You know, you're going to try to make her out to look like she wanted it or whatever. And that's what you're doing. You're attacking the human's memory to try to support your position, but you're really not honest, okay? Because here's the reality. 18 U.S. Code 3502, admissibility and evidence of eyewitness testimony. The testimony of a witness that he saw the accused commit or participate in the commission of the crime for which the accused is being tried shall be admissible in evidence in a criminal prosecution in any trial court ordained and established under Article 3 of the Constitution of the United States, okay? So what is the definition of evidence, LG? It is the available body of facts or information indicating whether a belief or proposition is true or valid. Okay, so let's summarize that for you. If human memory is admissible as evidence, and evidence is defined as facts indicating whether or not something is true, then I'm going to go ahead and draw this conclusion for you. According to the entire legal system, human memory can be recognized as facts that are true, i.e. reliable. Human memory is largely true and therefore it's trustworthy. Human memory is accurate enough to send someone to prison for life, so it carries weight. It's not brushed aside as unreliable by the entire court system. Not only here, but the entire world, you know, uses testimony evidence. And the unconvinced are trying desperately to discredit human memory, but the entire legal system disagrees with them. Therefore, they are discredited. Okay? Human memory is relied upon in most court cases heavily, and in some cases solely. And then don't take my word for it, okay? According to the U.S. National Library of Medicine, this distinction between the perception and reality of memory has important consequences in the context of the courtroom. In the legal system, like among the general public, it is generally assumed that memory is highly accurate and largely indelible, at least in the case of strong memories. Okay? So the U.S. Library of Medicine disagrees with you. And here's one of many studies that also flies in the face of your video, LG. Results of the study showed that participants who were tested within 15 years of graduation were about 90% accurate. Oh man! In identifying names and faces, after 48 years they were accurate at 80%. For verbal, 70% for visual. Ouch! Long-term memory studies. Okay, so here's a conclusion. Number 2, if the human memory was half as fallible as the unconvinced are trying to get us to believe, then the legal system probably would have abandoned it as the primary and in many cases the sole source of evidence 50 years ago. All right. Also, we're being told over and over and over that we can't trust our memories. But our experience is that we very much can retain and recall memories over long periods of time with a high degree of accuracy. This is confirmed by the study that I just mentioned and other studies. And honestly, isn't that your experience? That you can remember things from long ago, like the streets you grew up on? Right? If I ask you what street did you grow up on when you were a kid, you'll be like, Harrison Avenue, whatever. And then I'll be like, well, how sure are you? And you'll think about it. You'll be like, I'm 100% sure. Well, give us the same respect, please. This is really an attempt to discredit our testimony as evidence. And it's flawed, it's inaccurate, and it's exaggerated. Okay? And in the cases where it's true, where the memory is tricked and hijacked and influenced by outward sources, its application is limited. Okay? So in other words, what I mean is, think about your next door neighbor. Whatever their name is, okay? And when I ask you, are you sure? You're like, yeah, I'm sure. And I say, let's say the guy's name is James. And let's say there's another guy down the street named Joe. And I say, well, are you sure that you don't have them mixed up? Are you sure that Joe doesn't live next door? Because their names are sounding the same. It's really offensive. And there's a certain capability that humans have to be certain about things. But that's what the unconvinced are doing to us. And we're like, just get away from me. It's just nonsense. I'm not misremembering, okay? So if my next door neighbor's name is James and there's another guy next down the street named Joe, does that mean I get that confused 100% of the time? How about 50% of the time? Because that's what you're trying to, it sounds like you're suggesting, that we can't, remember our times tables and we're just bumping into walls and, we're all amnesic and got Alzheimer's, right? And if that was the case, the legal system probably wouldn't be using it as evidence anymore. Okay, and here's a few examples of humans with memory that is awesome. Kim Peek was a savant, but he could tell you every zip code, every phone number, every address in the United States of America. He could tell you all the monarchy, every name on every baseball and football team. It was incredible. He's passed away now. Okay? These two guys were the memory experts in an international contest. They were able to remember 72 cards. This guy is in the Guinness Book of World Records for his ability to remember things. The record in 1 minute was an Indian guy who was able to remember 50 numbers in sequence in 1 minute. And we're told the memory is, a piece of junk. Okay? There's actually a condition called hyperthymesia. It's super memory. It's the opposite of amnesia. And so this proves the human capability of the brain. This show, I'm not going to show it for, so I don't get copyright hit or whatever. They had kids on here. They're like 10, and they all had a certain amount of time to memorize 52 cards, and they each had to recite 3, and then the next kid had to go. So they had to remember just the ones in sequence. It was staggering, and they did it 100% correctly. All right, and then of course there's Daniel Talmot, my favorite. Okay, Daniel Talmot memorized. Well, first of all, in this show, he's with Letterman, and Letterman gives him this really complex number, 233,553.6 times 223,945.9, and Daniel goes. He just kind of draws on the armchair, and then he recites this number. Like within 4 seconds. And Letterman has got a calculator. He always figured the answer, and it's right. And he's like, how do you do that? And Daniel Talmud says, well, I just see a landscape and the number appears. Okay? And so this guy memorized pi out to 25,000 digits. And then he went to MIT, and there was a panel of 8 people, and he sat there for 7.5 hours. And he recited pi out to 25,000 digits with 0 margin of error. He made 0 mistakes. Thank you! The human memory is awesome. Here's 500 digits, and it's dizzying to think of remembering. Give me any amount of time, I could probably never do it. And this guy remembered 25,000, took him 2 weeks, and he didn't make one mistake. So there's a lot to this phenomenon, and I'll end it with this, is that regardless of what side of this controversy that you fall on, the one thing that you have to admit after all this is that there is a phenomenon. The fact that you have this huge group of people, and it's growing exponentially, claiming this is in and of itself a phenomenon, even if you disagree with it. It's not just we're crazy, because crazy is not contagious. You don't have hundreds of thousands of people just suddenly coming down with the crazies spontaneously. So at the very least, we're being influenced by an outward force. But you also are being influenced because you're misremembering a lot of the same stuff we are. The difference between the unconvinced and us is that we come to a different conclusion. So with that, I will close, and I invite you to go to Wake Up or Else on YouTube and look at some of the other evidence that I put forth. And feel free to comment or email me. I would be glad to talk with you about it. And I look forward to your next attempt to try to debunk this. I don't think if you respond to specifics here that you'll be able to, but it'll be interesting to watch you try. All right? Have a great day. I look forward to talking to you soon.
Alright, so check this out, right? I don't know what CERN's been up to, but I'm pretty sure they're messing with my timeline. In my timeline, my baloney had a second name, and it wasn't the same as John Mayer's last name. In my timeline, it was the Berenstein Bears. I told my girlfriend, she was like, yeah, I know, who cares? In my timeline, I used to eat a Chick-fil-A all the time, and I'd remember if it was spelled with a K. In my timeline, it was Luke, I am your father, for a fact, and even James Earl Jones remembers that. In my timeline, Febreze was spelled with 2 E's and Vaseline with the O, cause it was spelled like gasoline. In my timeline, there was 4 people in the car when JFK was shot, now there's 6, that's bizarre. In my timeline, it was mirror, mirror on the wall, now it's magic mirror on the wall. Who's the fairest of them all? In my timeline, the lion lays with the lamb, now it's wolf, and apparently always has been.
This is not my timeline.
My memory is correct, it's not me, it's in me, it's the Mandela effect.
This is not my timeline.
Don't you find it strange, all the changes we claim are exactly the same?
This is not my timeline.
This is my discernment, CERN's who we should be concerned
This
with.
is not my timeline.
My memory is correct, it's not me, it's in me, it's the Mandela effect. In my timeline, Morpheus said, what if I told you that everything you knew is a lie? In my timeline, there was most definitely a monocle on the Monopoly guy. In my timeline, it was Looney, T-O-O-N-S, now it's T-U-N-E-S, and that don't even make sense. In my timeline, the Scarecrow didn't have a gun, and my question is, where the hell did he get it from? In my timeline, it was Smokey the Bear, now it's Smokey Bear, like duh was never there. In my timeline, Skechers was spelled with a T, and Gene Wilder died before 2016. In my timeline, Darth Vader's nose was black. but now it's silver. What's up with that? In my timeline, witches were burned at the stake, so imagine my surprise to find out they were all hanged. My memory is correct, it's not me, it's in me, it's the Mandela effect. Don't you find it strange, all the changes we claim are exactly the same? This is my discernment, so we should be concerned with. My memory is correct, it's not me, it's in me, it's the Mandela effect.
5 worst words I can hear from anybody is that we made our own stuffing. I don't want to hear that.
Really?
Yes, stuffing, come on. The people at Stovetop, they know what they're doing. Let them do, right? Honestly, every day for 100 years, these people drive to a building that says Stouffer's on it. They go in there, they make stuffing all day long.
Yeah.
And you, in your little kitchen in Ronkonkoma, are going to try to bang out some stuffing that's going to top this? It's literally, that's like me going, you know what, I'm going to go into the Olympics next year. I'm going to do the Olympics.